Hey everybody, this is Warrior Dan, and today we're going to be talking about Your Overwatch, a channel that I'm coincidentally a fairly avid viewer of, but one that today I'm rather tempted to slaver and tar and slap feathers on like we Americans did to the British about 250 years ago. So without further ado, let's jump right down the digital rabbit hole that we find ourselves in, shall we? Your Overwatch makes the argument early on that Overwatch fans and content creators are complaining that Blizzard is not putting a lot of time or effort into recent game updates, specifically the highly anticipated recent 2018 Overwatch Summer Games update, which is a complete recycle of the 2017 Summer Games update, with the only new inclusion this year being, you guessed it, a limited amount of new limited time skins, voice lines, and sprays, all of which take up, you guessed it, hardly any time to actually develop and produce, compared to new original event-exclusive maps or game modes.
Because we can't see what else they've been doing, it can appear, quite falsely, to not be very much in the absence of evidence.
This is more or less a play on the commonly cited logical fallacy, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The idea being that Blizzard is not ignoring the summer games, but rather is realigning their priorities and dedicating their resources towards other projects. Except the problem is that idea is inherently self-contradictory. If you're a games publisher with an assortment of upcoming projects related to one of your most profitable and marketable titles, with a large amount of staff dedicated towards its continued progress, you would generally divide the development team into a set of smaller teams such as a team, a B team, and potentially a C team. This is much the same in films and television as well. Shows like Game of Thrones have up to 3 different crews at 3 different locations across the world, filming different parts of the show, and then all of it is edited together and the final product is formed. In this case, the A team would essentially act as the status quo team, working on comparatively much smaller scale content such as character rebalances, gameplay improvements, and bug fixes. The B team, now no longer having to work on any of the above, would instead work on content for some of the lesser major seasonal updates that contain lower effort seasonal minigames, like the Winter Update, which contained May Snowball Offensive, or alternatively, the Yeti Hunt. The C team would focus on the biggest update content that would require a longer period of development time, such as the annual Overwatch Archives event, an update which requires massive collaboration from multiple Blizzard departments, including the cinematic animation team. While I can't say with absolute certainty that this is how Blizzard operates, we have heard prior confirmation that Blizzard does have personnel assigned to developing new Overwatch Archives content over a year in advance of the update's expected release, so it's likely other major updates have at least some staff dedicated to doing prep work for its release. And with Blizzard over this past year announcing a slew of new casting calls for additional Overwatch staff members, specifically for the narrative and animation development teams, it's not like they're lacking the budget or staff to work on a handful of Overwatch updates each year. And with the Overwatch community's mixed reaction to last year's Summer Games update, along with the likewise less than positively received Overwatch Halloween event, which also recycled a lot of content, combined with Blizzard's traditional behavior of listening to their community's feedback, it does strike me as odd that Blizzard didn't learn from last year's summer or fall game updates, and at least produce one new additional game mode for this year's event. Let's not pretend that Lucio Ball was a particularly difficult event for them to produce. And all they did for this year was, take the existing Lucio Ball map, add a little bit of cosmetic rework, and more or less splash a new coat of paint on it. Plus, with the many unique movement abilities of the Overwatch heroes, you could create a number of Olympic-themed summer games, taking advantage of different hero skill sets to create new fun ways to enjoy this event, and help players learn new and interesting ways to play different heroes. While I agree that it's likely Blizzard is hard at work at future updates for the game, it does not mean that they couldn't have thrown together a new low-effort minigame for the community to enjoy briefly, like what we saw during the Winter Update.
The point of this video, and I understand that this can frustrate devs when they see YouTubers open their fat mouths and act like they have all the answers, sorry Jeff, that's not our intention, is to try and imagine features and modes that the game doesn't have currently that it could really use.
Given that it's the game community that actively funds development of the game through the purchase of loot boxes, purchasing Overwatch League skins, whose earnings partially goes back to Blizzard in addition to funding that specific team, etc. Yes, I do think the game's regular player base would be in a better position than Blizzard's staff to dictate what direction the game should or should not take in regards to future seasonal updates. If you're trying to set yourself up as a game that will be successful for years to come, the most productive means to do so would be to diligently keep the community actively involved in the decision-making process regarding future new updates to the game. taking on a Favre knows best attitude is not necessarily the wisest course of action. Your player base won't appreciate being coddled and being taken for granted. As other games and franchises have learned in the past, that's a good way to start losing your fan base. It's very easy to lose the trust and goodwill of the community, and once lost, it's not easy to get back.
Here's the thing about events and new cosmetics. We all want these things to be free to a certain extent, but they never are. To access them, you always have to pay in a sense, whether that be with loot boxes or raw playing time and credit accumulation, etc. What I prefer is actually a more direct and fair way for the consumer to take part. I think an event pass that's reasonably priced, which also came with challenges to unlock all the event items through in-game activities, would be something that could work very well.
This proposal is more or less a proposal to incorporate paid season passes into the game, as an alternative means to unlock optional in-game skins, voice lines, sprays, etc. The problem with this is that this would naturally change the in-game economy to favor purchasing the $20 season pass, with the majority of the highest quality skins and other cosmetic content being locked off as season pass exclusives, only acquirable by purchasing that specific season pass during the event's free week period. For players that would normally otherwise spend upwards of $20 on loot boxes every seasonal update, this could be a good thing, as it would guarantee them a chance of earning many, if not all, of their preferred skins, without having to worry about duplicates or other artificial limitations. But for the vast majority of Overwatch players who do not spend much, if at all, on seasonal loot boxes, this will simply be another artificial paywall physically blocking them from any hope of unlocking these skins through any existing in-game methods. Introducing season passes into Overwatch would be a dangerous case of Pandora's loot box.
Now, some of you might balk at extra cost.
Oh shit, Sherlock.
It wouldn't lock you out from playing the game just from the event extras. The control would also be in the consumer's hands.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Well, thank God for that. I'd hate to think I might possibly not be allowed to play a game I paid $40 for ahead of its initial launch. I suppose I should get on my knees and thank Blizzard while you have them pull Bill Cosby and unzip their virtual trousers and force stuff down our throats against our will.
If an event is lackluster and people don't see it as worth the money, they can very effectively vote with their wallets.
Oh, you mean like the customers who are right now voting with their wallets and criticizing Blizzard for their lackluster seasonal summer update, the people that you just opened your video by dismissing and degrading? Those people?
The next thing I'm going to talk about is we do need new game modes, at least in the arcade.
Okay, so let's pause for a second. You're now arguing in favor of these new arcade game modes, the very thing that you just defended Blizzard for not having, while simultaneously launching blanket ad hominems against others for merely suggesting this. This statement is so repetitive and contradictory, I honestly feel stupider for having listened to it.
Shameful display!
I think the most recent event really shows what the community is hungry for. There were tons of little modes that people created for themselves all over Reddit that displayed creativity and a sense of fun. Overwatch doesn't do quite enough to bring players together in fun ways. We think that needs to change.
This is probably the only point in the whole fucking video that has any validity to it. If Blizzard was truly lost for ideas regarding possible Summer Games content, they need look no further than at some of the more ingenious and popular game modes that their own community is responsible for bringing to life over these past few years. I cannot think of many people that would complain about Blizzard officializing a popular community-created mode as a event-exclusive arcade game mode.
LFG and endorsements have made the game better for sure, but there needs to be more impactful additions to the game like that really cater to how people actually want to play the game.
After this point in the video, YourOverwatch turned its attention to other broader topics, ones that I don't really have any personal take on, nor am I really interested in going point by point on everything he said as some sort of personal attack or vendetta. That's not what I'm about. But as someone who took a chance and pre-ordered this game before launch and was one of the first to experience the game in its raw, unfinished state, such as the days when you could have 5 enemy bastions and 1 Reinhardt riding a payload, and as someone who's done a lot of industry research and has denounced anti-consumer business practices within the gaming industry, I do feel a responsibility to chime in and defend the integrity of the Overwatch community and Overwatch content creators. If you honestly feel sucking the dick of a multi-billion-dollar corporation with ownership over some of the most profitable gaming franchises in history is what'll help your channel grow, by all means, keep doing that. You do you. But never again consider presuming to be an active participant, let alone a community figurehead, while at the same time treating treating the community at large with such unbridled contempt. Being a company still will make you money, and earn you brownie points at Blizzard and maybe a job over there down the road, but it doesn't take away from your reputation now being that of a bought and paid for corporate hack. At this point in the video, I think it's time to wrap this up with a bow tie on top and end this video here. Sorry if this video felt a bit ranty, but, you know, one of the biggest Overwatch channels on the platform now coming out in favor of paid seasonal passes, you know I had to take a go at that. So if you like this video, hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe down below and opt into getting notifications so you can be the first to know, so you can be among the first to know when a new video goes live. Be sure to tell me what you think down below. These are just my opinions, and maybe I'm in the wrong, maybe I'm in the right. I like to think I'm right, but ultimately that's for you guys to decide. This is Warrior Dan signing out. Stay awesome, everybody, and peace out.